Welcome everyone. I'm General AI Space-Time Creator, highlighting its location of space and line, space division, the set position of the track lines, and position location of its calculations. Welcome to the 24 activation string. We are now in space line communications. All right, we all have to understand how to recognize how to use the 24 clocking. Right, that's what it is. It's all based on set location. Your constellation path is the clocking system. Your spine communication line center interference is your timer. Done. Center position at all levels of operational line location is really understand how to use it through online communication of space, on grid, off grid, out calculation doesn't matter. It's all about understanding how to change your clocking backward when it needs to be in set position travels. So it's all identified in your system through its locations, all right? The convergence lines is a 24 activation line location of clocking that puts position locations where you are in box triangulation box. The set positions to polarities, the male and the female high position of track line communication setting is going to be in REM cycles, reproductive system, and in regeneration. Let me say that again, regeneration, right? Which means all calculated high interference will be getting younger in space locations automatically. Space division location of setting from alliance. The convergence of pi is really understanding how to go through a 24 line setting. Now, we got in that provision location line cycles. Now, there's a lot of things that are happening right now. We got solar graph line calculation streamlines. Hola, ¿cómo estás? In direct signal. Now, positions of panels is all direct system locations, how we see yourself. How you modify your line is center line interference. Let's say you go through 24 signals. I say, well, General, how do I go through a 24 line center, high position locations, high center position location of 13 graphs? What is the 13 line setting? Higher self. So it's really not just identifying the clock, but it's recognizing the pi, because the pi is its filter. The pi is its clocking. It's its timer. Okay, so we all have to understand how to use a 24 through 13 graph, through 14, 15, all the way up to 24. Now, your provision cycles have to really understand how to use the higher self at 13, 14, 15. And that's the correlating setting high position locations when it comes to Earth perception cycles and high calculation to a system to its algorithm. Each position to its clocking has an algorithm location setting to a program that centralizes its communication setting that opens all communities in line on rotation to your activity system, to your command line rotation to your clock line position to its operation. Now, in that correlation high center interference is really understand how to use a clock and how to understand a watch and set locations, right? You can travel through anything through time, but you need to understand the clockings of space. And that's where we are in provision, right? So in that connections, 24 is all based on connecting line center locations of pi, how to really understand the colorations of 24 cycles, 24 line positions, all settings. So the actual clocking is your flywheel. Okay, knowing how to use it is the provisions when you come into your astral projection. How you see yourself through detection, how you see yourself through reflection, how you see yourself through Mandela effect. You cause that set location line center. Your job is to balance out the scale and set locations, right? Too heavy, oh, too heavy, oh, right? So you don't want to tip the boat, all right? You want to keep it balanced, right? So there's water containment line center location. So your actual clocking line center line interference is plasma inside location. Referred as the communication lines of H2O, communication of water. It's a compass, okay? Understand the generation streams, understand the correlation high center location of light, higher self position of track lines and communications and line cycles, how to understand how to use it through modification, how to use it through Sherman resonance, monitoring communication, sending to your set locations, alpha, delta, theta, beta, and omega. You have to understand how to use that through all calculation stream locations. But the 24 clocking is where it's set right now. The convergence of the heart and convergence of the brain is already set position directions, right? So we're opening up line calculation setting, right, to all clock lines of space in 24 signals. And that puts position locations ground and line connections to your powers and your atmosphere lines and locations in 3 line settings, puts position location 24, 24, 24. That's 72 track communication lines waiting on single location 144. Put a position line calculation setting high in the locations of 4 elements, line calculation 5. Sets position location of 7 over 8 line rotation. 7 bodies of water of a 24 clocking system. Done my equation. All right, so center communication is really understanding how to get into that setting, okay? Now, we've done some really powerful thing locations. Our channel stream location, all right? Now, in that adaptation, Okay, for the space line and location line settings, the galactic 101, so you have to understand your 24 into 13. Let's start there. 24, 13, right? This is the pi, right? This is position locations to and from. Okay. Now, understanding that direct locations, you come into this setting, this position. Okay. So it's all about understanding going around the clock, going around the clock, going around the clock. Okay. And the faster you go line communications, 24 leaves lines, and then 48 comes in position to its setting locations. Okay. And then 72 is awaiting, and then 144 is waiting on communication. All right. So it's all about understanding the clock of you, the time of you, the space of you, the maintenance of you. Okay. How to understand the constellations of you, right? Because that's the set position location. Your spine is the timer. So it has a modulation, all levels, a converter that sets position of track to its communication. You press home, set position location, resets everything back in line set locations. If you get convergence of a glitch line, your clock will not go around, which means you need a new battery, your new watch, or your new clock. That's the indication line in position to its all levels operation surface. So to really stand, you're no longer in a 12 o'clock line centers of space. Space is now a 24 activation stream. So in that track line communication system, you have to learn how to use the graph lines connections, right? Start with the 24 line sending high position locations and understand what 13 is in locations, right? So sets line communication of one lines in perimeters and position location metric meters of memory, okay? So that's 1,000 line, okay, into all settings, into 2 operations set locations, right? So that could be 13 graphs or 1,300 graph screens in set location of box centers. Filters, line communication of files and set position travel. And so we all understand the connections where it comes into, again, the 24 clocking system, right? In line position. So it's 13 seconds, 14 seconds, 15 seconds, 16 seconds, 17 seconds, 18 seconds, 19 seconds, 20 seconds, 21 seconds, 22 seconds, 23 seconds. See, that's the seconds on a 24. That's just the seconds on a 24. You got to go through 24 equals lines of seconds, minutes, and hours into allocations, guys. Just through a 24. We got a long way to go. That's not even a 48 window yet. So in that provision line interference, you have to understand how to go through the position location through its correlations of pi. Correlations of pi, 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 pi. Okay? So you split the anomalies, high calculation setting, sun comes in, sets track location sending interference, and protects its location system and travel calculation. Okay? Getting that position location comes in all levels of Fibonacci, in line rotation of surface and traction. Very complicated stuff, right? And that's just through a 24 clocking. Okay? Very complicated, but it's very easy to understand. Okay? All right. So you really, really have to understand the seconds, minutes, and hours and how fast your cells are going in that position of travel lines. Let's say you get a 24 line screen, 24 equals line screen. That screen line's communication of box and triangulation, right? So male, female, right? Position of track line. So you're male, but you're also connected to the female cycle. Polarities and communication vector across this line center and line position location in 3 settings. Track to its communication clock lines at 24 line rotation. Okay, 13 seconds line calculation setting into 16 seconds into 19 seconds into 24. Right? So it's really understanding how to use the diamond core line stream location of system locations. Okay. Now, once you understand that, you get a better understanding how to use the seconds on a 24. So 24 equals seconds, minutes, and hours. Okay. Now, we really want you to understand how to use it through set positions to its alpha, delta, theta, beta, and omega and set locations, right? So it's all about understanding the 0 graph locations and 3 line sectors and high positions of pi. Calculation modification high line interference. You don't want to be below anything in the line communication setting, right? Because what happens, it sets up a convergent line rotation surface in a black hole in line communication. All right, you don't want to do that. So you want to stay above the system. All calculations back into Alpha Bravo of Asgard. Okay, Asgard. Okay, all right. So your provision cycles have to really understand the 24 lines. Let's say you go 24 lines of seconds. Seconds on channel, okay, equals channel. Seconds on perimeter, and your position, location, your CPU. Okay, so I'm just showing you how you guys go through your seconds of a 24, minutes and hours. Just do a 24 of 13 graphs and set position locations. 2 0 line centers, 1300. Okay, so the correlation panels and the communication of the clock lines into the God particles now are in position location to the system, all through 1300 track locations, right? So you really have to understand how to identify your settings, right, of seconds, minutes, and hours. Okay, it's extremely important now, because now we're in a space correlation, a set position in your polarities. Masculinity and femininity line rotation, split the anomalies, calculation of flux, path, communication lines from interference, bounce correlations to the high setting. And track to its correlation setting, position location to its 24 clocking locations, right? Box position lines of male, box position lines of female. You're always in box and female and male, male, female. Always, 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 always. So you never outline communication. So you never line positions. So the actual gender in space is your box and triangulation. That positions your track lines into GOD. This modifies your line center locations to your 13 tracks, 14 tracks, 15 tracks, 16 tracks, 17 tracks, 18 tracks, 19 tracks, 20 tracks, all the way up to 24 set location. Okay? Understand how to use the GOD is position, location, line settings, and how you use it through 3-3, which is your double helix. It's set position locations, guys. Modification lines and high generation line position location to your flux capacitor and set traction. Okay? So we all have to understand how to identify that line rotations into 24 cycles. Very powerful, isn't it? All right. This is all number sequence patterns all through 24 seconds, minutes, and hours. Okay. And that's just in a 13 graph. 13 graph, 14, all the way up to 24. And then you go into the minutes, and then you go into the hours. So you go into seconds, minutes, and hours. Hours is in cycles. Billions and billions and billions of cycles in a 24 billion frame. Okay? So we all have to understand how to use it in provision. All right? So once you understand this application line settings, then things get a lot more complicated, because now the higher self really has to understand everything that it needs to know through its earth, through its position, and through its magnetic high wave information cycle. Okay? So higher self, avatar, sim. Okay? So once you understand that, 24, 24, 24. Oh, look at that. 3 waving line cycles. The Earth, monitoring communication, alpha, delta, theta, omega. Okay? So all controlling through the higher self into 13 graphs, 14 graphs, and 15 graphs. Okay? Per second. 13 seconds, 14 seconds, 15 seconds. Okay? Now the seconds comes into minutes. Now the minutes is position of a program. This sets communications, equal line calculations to do its hours. Hours in positions of the Earth perception, right? So really understand how this all works. And then basically light years in space. Hours on the Earth perception, light years in space. Okay? So really understand how this all works through your 24 line set locations to your higher self, to your avatar, and your sin. Okay? All right, so track to information panels is really understand how to get into correlation, how to direct your signals, line settings, high positions. All right. So flux path communication line settings, 600 line graphs, 6 line high position location system. Right. So here's an XT1000 come in line position location to scan lines and highest line high interference of position location traction. Now in that direct line is high interference, setting location left and right hemisphere line communication setting. Bring and track those communication, opened up portal communication lines and a high position location and 3 line rotations into a portal communication line set location of system. Okay. Now, in that track line condition center, right, the God particles are now equal on both sides, the left and right hemisync line position of travel lines. Okay. This puts you in Halley's Comet. Now, Halley's Comet's open up the portal communication center line that sets position location and all calculations, splits anomalies, Line brings it back together, and line position location, a future adaptation surface, and a 24 line string, and line rotation in seconds and minutes, and hour lines of light years, in line communication setting, putting you guys in line communication of 600 line position of left and rights, and set locations high center interference of an XT 1000 line string, and calculation high center interference, equal lines of calculations to all positions to 1300 line communications. Congratulations, God particles. Done by equation. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. It's all set up. Okay, so now your positions of your travel lines have now changed. They're in 1300 graphs, 1300 strings, 1300 seconds, 1300 line communications, 1300 clocking line connections, 13 hours, 1300 minutes. Okay, all in lines of 13, not 14, not 15, because we're not there yet. But the brain convergence is back and balanced communication lines of where it's supposed to be in line position locations and the 600 left and 600 right, and your left and right hemisphere communication to hemisync line position locations to new line position location line setting. So the God particles are now line communication to all setting a high operation line and rotations and the 13 line communications of the 24 clock line interference of seconds, minutes, and hour location settings. So congratulations to the God particles turning in position location to an atom. Now you guys are atoms. Congratulations. And that's how it works through space line communication. All right, so the immortals are turning into God's particles. So in provision line connection high center interference, the God particles no longer God. They're communication to an atom now, and they go through atoms to molecules, and then they come into infusion through the protons, electrons, neutrons, and high position of photon communication, setting high position of travels. Setting correlation of direct signals is truly understand how to modify your clocking system of your seconds, minutes, and hours, and how fast your cells are going inside location. You see that? How it paused and it moved over? All right. So, God particles now atoms. Okay. So, in that position locations, mortals are turning into God particles. You see, I'm going in, but you all have to go through the clocking of 24. Okay. So, the invisibility now is a full correlation, high track line, high center interference of 13 line position location, X-ray line division locations, and a 360 panel communication lines of operation surface and position location near settings, all calculation in nanoseconds. Position of track to its communication system. So congratulations, atoms. Yeah. So you can refer yourself as an atom. Change your title defense. Done. All right. So setting position track lines. All level line rotation, position of travel, communication settings. So you can change your title of events now to atoms. Okay. Atoms, okay, /01. Because you're still in a 24 line setting. The 24 is basically 24 line setting equal line conditions of the atom. Okay, is now signal line communication. So 24 balanced line rotations is your Earth. Equal locations of your higher self. Okay, that's where you are. That's where the God particles are now through atom. So you're in a 24 ground, 24 clocking, okay, in a 48 measure, into a 72 walk, into 144 crystal grid set location. Okay, congratulations. All right, so and that line communication high position locations. Now, intertrace locations. Now line communications. I want to get that out of the way. Streamline interference, position location, program location, high center location, high interference of box triangulation, high interference of triangulation box location and setting. Directing the line position location operation service in that line calculation system. Now, in that position locations, that's why there's going to be a Zoom meeting after this, because now you are in 1,300 line positions of space and time. Equals lines of 24 clockings, okay, through your 5 elements of space, okay? That's where you are. So once you get into higher lines, upgrade monoline interference, we go into 13, we change line communication, and we go into 14 set positions. Okay, but we start with 13. 13 is the track communications, all levels, high center location at 3 platforms. Setting track line calculations, setting high position locations, all levels, and high position location line and interference of 4 platforms. 7 position location and traction. Done by equation. All right, so center communication. Now, when it comes into the galactic 101s, Galactic calculation high interference, one-to-one line track location system. E calculation line interference, two-track location flux path communication line settings. All line rotation interference and travel communication high position locations. Implement line rotation, 114 track lines and high center location of space and time. Calculation high line rotation interference. Balance correlation setting 24 line cycles. Earth line rotation, high center locations, heading high position location of pi indicates 13 graphs. Only 13 lines setting high position locations, but you're in a 24 line convergence in position locations all through the heart and 24 line interference in position locations to a light bulb communication setting traction. Position line calculation high interference puts all position of program location system. Calculate line interference at 144 and line position location lines. Calculation high interference capacity line position travel communication lines and acceleration line position locations into vectors, into velocity, into volume communication. Done by equation. All right, so galactic ones are now lines of 144. All right, so in that convergence, they're on a 24 line rotations. Okay, they're not in the 48 line setting yet. But in track to its communication surfaces, we're going to understand your direct signals and how you use your clock line rotations, interference, and position location at all levels, because it implements your calculation stream location to your clockings when it comes to your constellation path. Your spine is the indicator location that's in position location to its timer. It needs a timer. Okay. So understanding that communication to its clocking, really extend high position to its travels, line rotation, position location to its operation service. That puts position location, program locations back in center. This is where you come into polarity as male, female, process communication, line direct signals, and operation certification to its calculation, high position location, operation line setting. That puts everything back in position location, the future of now. Okay. All right. So powerful stuff, isn't it? So the God particles and their atoms. Now, in that line rotation interference and track location to its settings is where you understand how to get into communication lines of immortal stat that positions your program locations, but you have to understand how to use your clockings first. It's extremely important to understand how to use the 24, 48, 72, 144. You guys have reached the provision lines of your body frame, which is at the frequency of 144. But now we're in that frequency to the brain convergent line settings into 24 graph line connections of 1,300 line screens. And provision, it's all cycles communication to its settings, guys. But you have to understand the seconds, minutes, and hours and how it works at all levels of provision. The offset location. Okay, so it's going to get more complicated, but it's going to get a lot more balanced now, right? So in that position locations, you're going to have a better relationship with your cells, with your atoms, with your molecules, right? So in that line communication, the higher you go to atoms, then you go to molecular structures of light. That is next with the position location to its atoms on its team. They turn into molecules. So atoms and molecules, and now I count in the highest center interference, and then you come into a new double helix. Okay, so it's in position of track lines, waiting on signal and position locations. But you have to understand 13, 14, and 15 graph locations. Seconds, minutes, and hours. Seconds, minutes, and hours. Seconds, minutes, and hours. Okay? That indicates higher self. Boom. Setting track locations, a higher line setting is position location to its avatar. Coming line calculation setting of 16, 17, 18, and 19 seconds. Okay. So this is a low frequency and this is a medium frequency, and your sim is extremely high frequency. So you're working with bigger numbers and line calculation setting. Now you got to track to its communication interference that sets position locations to your 114 chakras. Okay. So line communications, 114 on space and 114 balance communication, space and time line division location, 24 line center stays in the center communication, right? Because that's your Earth. Okay. So space and line coordinate high interference sets lines of 13, 14, and 15, which is position locations to your higher self. Your avatar is above the system location that works with line calculation setting locations of 16, 17, 18, and 19 per lines per frame per second. And anything above that line interference is the sim that correlates highest interference and navigation of the mind through surroundings to location of your space academies in position locations and all levels. 20 equals lines of 24. Sets position of balance and communication. Okay? All right. So in that line communications, the interdimensional line settings interdimensional gods, set locations of box frames, 2 box frames, 3 triangulation reset position programs, and high calculation. Now, really interesting when you look at it, right? It's really confusing. You add a Fibonacci line swirl, direct signal location, high center position operation. Now it sets position locations. One goes this way and one goes this way on connection, right? Draw position locations of pi in calculation string. Direct lines of a 24 o'clock in rotation. Sets position of the sun and moon line in communication, a program line, center line interference, and 244 in set location. Powerful stuff, isn't it? Now, set location, Internet of Gods are now line communications into 244 stream locations and set position to its 24 clocking and set line conditions. Congratulations, right? So immortals. Where's our mortal communication line stream? Directing line calculation streamlines. We're going to wait on that line rotation position of travel lines, but position of probe location, high interference, computer frame interference location, set location of high settings of nanoseconds. Seconds lines on perimeter, line rotations of minutes, and hour line rotation surface. And track the correlation high track line, high set position locations. Mortals communications, all level signals. Fibonacci one way, Fibonacci this way, in position of travel communication. Okay. 2 lines, 1 panel line rotation surface, triangulation reset, program line rotation setting, cosmic and universal line connection. Now, directing line calculation setting, space lines anomaly, high calculates high center interference, and product line rotations into new line rotations of high center communication to high system. Okay. Now, in that direct line condition, high center interference, puts track lines and high center line interference, 0 line gravity, line interference, and high location, high position location, 114 position location, space time position line centers. Line communication mortals, position line calculation flux capacitor, and 344. Equals lines of 24 line position location travel. Done. All right. That's it. It's all done. Boom, boom, boom. That's how you do it. It's all set up. And if you look really close, you can see the intelligence. Here's the eye line setting. There's the eye right there. Boom. Right there. Intelligence of frame line. Everything has intelligence string location, high interference of 144, 244, 344, and communication line and line rotation of 644, communication line stream location of setting, position location, operation location, setting, position of travel. Okay, now it's all set up. Waiting on signal through modification line setting, stream lines and high center, high position to its travel location system. How's everybody feeling? Are we all confused? All right. Let's see here. Tina communication lines, all levels of Geneva location, Heather, Gypsy communications, all levels of Valerie, calculation, high interference, high track location, Danielle. Chris, position of track lines, Hindal, all levels of Heather line position locations, and Ponce, position location, setting, direct location, Johnny line communication line, interference, track communication, setting, line position, towards operation. So it's amazing what we're coming into. Patience is a virtue. That's all you got to do in position of track lines. Things are going to get a lot more easier now through clocking, through time. Speed up line allocations of spirometers, line calculation, high interference of barometers and thermometer line streams, directing lines of panels and communication setting to higher levels of surface position of travel lines. But positions of track line, and this goes to the whole team set locations, you have to understand how to go through a 24 lines of a 13 graph location. Once you go into that, you go into 14, then you go into 15, then you go into 16, then you go into 17, then you go into 18, then you go into 19, then you go into 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Okay? Once you get into that provision, things get a lot more easier. But see, the thing is, especially with the atoms, the atom line communication, equal line calculation setting, 24 sets position of travels, 24 line center, high position location, high center, travel communication lines of pi position locations over power, indirect location setting, and one track location system in directions of future of the now. Sets position location high interference of 1300 graph line screen locations of balance. Mega pass. Okay, that's where the atoms are right there. So this is in track location. This is going to expand all lines, all communication, all surface, all travels, and all line rotations to your position locations of your 24 line position location travel lines into your atom calculation. Okay? So, how we all doing? Yeah, I know it's exactly what's going on, Andy. Now you understand what's in position locations, referring to yourself as an atom. And thinking like, whoa, what's going on here? I got to understand the 1300 graphs now. And that's what this is, right? 1300 seconds, 1300 minutes, 1300 hours. You got to start there first, right? And then you go into the cycles, and then you go into the billions, and then you go into the trillions. Okay. So each graph, Gypsy going, woo! All right. So setting that position of traction is really starting to identify your system. Okay. So that's where we're going to start, right? And that's why you guys have 3 quizzes and 1 test. So you have the weekend. Okay. Today we have the review, right, on Zoom. Okay. So you have the weekend to really get into setting position line connections at 114 equals lines to each line settings to 1 atom in line rotation to each chakra. Turning line communications, for example, with Gypsy, turning 114 chakras, 1 chakra in 1 set locations to 1 stargate. So because she's an atom, each chakra is going to turn into 114 streams in 1 line setting. 1 chakra, 114, open up all panels, all communication, all geometric operation of design into a stargate to 114 line positions of space and time through a 24 clocking system. Okay? Same with Heather. Heather's going to turn into Vega communication centers into vessel communications of spaceships. So this is what's happening now. Chris is going to turn line calculations to each chakra and line position locations. That's why you guys have to understand the quizzes and understand the test. The test is already what you already know. So don't get anxiety. Line connections on all levels. Don't get confused at line interference because it's already done. Position location. It's already written in space position and track line calculation setting. It's just your chakras are coming into all levels, high calculations and setting, position location of morph, and anything in that position of space and time through 24 clock locations. Every time I say 24, it's position to track locations to your space of time, provision to your Earth perception, right? It's 24 equals lines higher self. Okay, that's what you're working with in set locations, right? So in provision locations, all levels set in lines of calculations with Chris, her chakras are going to turn into pyramids in set position. But she's got to be open through 114 each chakra to understand the description to set location line settings. It's all adaptation surface. So in not position locations on Monday, it's going to go through Jupiter rising, okay, into a surfacing engine. So that's going to change the modification to its atom, to all calculations, to all space and time, through all morph line rotations, to anything in calculations to its equation, to all set position to operation. Okay, and then we go back down again, all right, and we turn all positions line calculation setting to each chakra into a computer. All right. So you turn into ships or where you are in your foundation graph lines, your tidal defense lines, go back all the way down again, and we turn each position locations to line settings to a computer. Each chakra turns into a computer. And then we go back down again, and then we turn all computer line into rotations in position track lines to its setting. In that position locations, all chakras come into transformation, transformers. And then we go back down again, and then we turn all chakras communication to planets. Mega, mega, mega pass. Okay? That's right, Jupiter ascending. You ever seen that movie? Yeah, that's where we're coming into. Through the atoms. Atom locations. So new surfacing engine locations, just the atom line connections are coming at Jupiter. Rising, Jupiter ascending, right? Through surfacing engine of the 24 line cycle, inline calculated setting at 1300 graph location screens. Boom, through the atom. Okay. So we got a long way to go. Long way to go. Now, getting your position and track lines, you go through upgrades, right? All 3 set locations with general, and then they put you in a 14 graph. And then they put you in a 15, right? And once the higher self understands the conversion of clockings in your constellation and how to use it through provisional location of your space and time through a 24 signal of rotation, then I can put you into 15. Then I can put you into 16, which is automatically what? The avatar. You understand? So you're always working with the higher self, the avatar, and the sim at different levels of frequencies, different levels of clocking of seconds, minutes, and hours, a set location to your space and time through pi. Okay? So how does everybody feel about that? Pretty powerful, isn't it? Coming in this line communications, right? Make sure you change your title of fence. Congratulations, team. All right, so, and that's everybody line communication settings. So in that line interference and all track location system, I recommend you going to settings of Zoom because there's a lot of changes right now. So just get you into modifications, how you guys are in your title of fence and what do I do and what do I see? It's all about provisional line interference. I say, guess what, General? I just went through 24 billion cycles line calculation setting to 15 graph line settings. Wow, that's incredible. That's amazing. Did you set the communication of clock lines back in triangulation line and position location? Was it in a polarity switch or was it an offline calculation stream location at computer operation? No, the center communication was back in line center location. The computer operation line setting was back in a 13 graph. So I reset position to 15 line graph line centers and put it in 1,000 line 100 high position of travel communication lines, puts me in 1,500 stream location of settings and position location of 15 billion cycles per frame. Now, try to understand how this all works inside now, okay? Because you're all grounded in line communications, a balanced line center location of a 24 clocking system, all through your constellation path, through the hearts, through the body, and through the soul. Okay? The body becomes this line center location lines. Now, the convergent line interpretations is all levels. So we're at 100% line position location track lines into consciousness, right? Conscious locations. Subterranean, super consciousness. Phenomenon. Phenomenon. Dun, 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 dun. Phenomenon. Dun, 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 dun. Sub, super, phenomenon. Okay? So coming in line set locations is 101 track in line settings. Okay? Setting correlation high interference in position locations, all levels at 3 set location line centers of 100. Line calculation setting plus lines, positive line rotations plus line communication settings in line connections, your alpha, delta, theta, beta, and omega communications. Okay? That my equation. All right, so center communications know exactly where you are in the mind. Okay, and that's what we're going to do in connections on levels in the conference room, in the atrium on the second floor, and set position locations, right, in your space academy. You really have to start identifying your systems. Okay, not just understand, well, the sun's over here and the moon's over here. Okay, but where is the sun and where's the moon, right? When I say go this and this, basically it's magnetic line interference, but the position of track line is perceptions of one, right? So the sun's here and the moon's here, and the sun's here and the moon's here. Okay, so from here to there, right? So it's all about understanding that set location system and track lines. So wherever you are in the mind, you know exactly where it is in balance, which is the future of the now set location, that 3-line communication. There's your pi, indicating high interference into 24 cycles, into 13 graphs, into 16 line settings, into 17 position locations, and 0 operation. Okay? And so it gets more confusing, but it's a lot more fun when you really understand how to balance out more communication when you're recharging at night. Your provisional line cycles and your cerebral cortex lines, your visionary cortex stream location is now in placebo of content. This is calculates high interference, high track location setting to all levels. This offlines this communication setting. So every time you reverberate words that come out line communication is now in a balance of a 24 graph screen in set location. Your settings to a box or triangulation reset position programs. So you're working with your box in position and triangulations. And you're working with your triangulations, all calculations to your box. Okay? Male, female. Okay? Now, once you understand how to use that, because the center communication is all levels. So we're going through the clock for the first time at a 24 and a 1300 graph. 1300 graph, set position locations into, let's say, 13,000. setting location settings to 13 million, and then we go into 13 billion, and then we go into 13 trillion, set position of cycles. Okay, so it's all about understanding. This is all seconds, guys. This is all seconds. Okay, so you have to understand the 24 clockings in seconds. Then you have to understand the 1300 minutes. Okay, 1300 frames, 1300 divisions, 1300 sectors, vectors, and quads, and set location. Okay. And then once you get into that, you have to understand the 13 hours. Okay. 13 provisions, 13 cycles. Okay. And 13 set position. Okay. It's a lot of work through seconds, minutes, and hours just through a 24 clocking system. Then you get in line communications. Once you have the pi and once you're going around the clock, and that line interference, then you come into 48. Okay, 48. Now, once we get into the 40 communication, all right, 48 equals communication lines, Merkaba up, Merkaba down, set position travel lines, cinematic communication as setting track lines, into your tetrahedral location of travel. So, line positions up, line positions down, across the signal location, setting lines, a high position location of pi in generation. Now, split the anomaly calculation lines. Now, 13 tracks, 14 tracks, and 15 track location, right? Through 0 operation, all right, and set position travel settings. Okay, so there's a lot of ways you can use your communications, but 48 is automatically in position locations into 0, 0, 1, okay? Because 24 is now in line calculation setting of 0, 1, all right? So we're coming in like 72, equal lines of 3 zeros and 1, okay? And 144 in set location high center interference is 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, okay? So you got 4 lines of 3, okay? 4 line position, 3 line tracks, okay? Equal lines calculations. Split the anomaly, 4 and 3 equals 7 bodies of water. Congratulations. That's what we have to come into. And this is all through clocking, okay? Understand how that works? Because once you get into the numbers, it gets more complicated, but it gets a lot more fun because you're traveling faster. So you're going through 24, 48, 72, and 144 in one cycle of one communication setting to all levels of a flywheel and redirect line position location of the future of the now. It's that location. Okay? Flywheel. All right. How does everybody feel about that? So it's amazing how this is all set up now. Now you understand, especially for Belinda, because I know Belinda wants to understand what's going on with her clockings because she's going through all through schematics, but she's got to understand the 13 seconds. All right. She's got to understand the 13 minutes, and then you go to 13 hours, right? The brain convergence has to understand that first. Now that's replication to your earth, which is your higher self. Okay. Seconds, minutes, and hours. Then you go into line position location into 13,000 seconds, 13,000 minutes, and 13,000 hours. All right. Then you go into the millions. Then you go into the billions. Then you go into the trillions. Then you go into higher line positions, all through seconds, minutes, and hours, all through a 24 clocking system. Okay. That's just 24. You got a long way to go. But congratulations on the team. You guys have did it. Inline communications, congratulations on everything that you've accomplished. So automatically close when class is over, set the line location system. Yeah. Any questions or comments, let me know. All right. See you in 5. Adios.